Welcome in. Happy holidays. I guess it's after Halloween, so we're coming up on Thanksgiving. It's that tweener time where the weather outside is certainly getting frightful, especially if you live in Northern California. It has cooled off tremendously. People up near the Tahoe area already getting the big snows. Ski season is upon us. Go get that Epic Pass if you haven't already. If you live in Denver, I know your weather is frightful. Big talks of all the snowstorms first of the season. And then let's get a check in on our metro conference weather. How's it looking out there?
It's starting to get chilly. It is starting to get that fall weather is kind of finally here. And I think it's here consistently. So a welcomed. I'm happy for it. It felt like it was never going to get here. And then it was just like, well, maybe it's just going to be 70 the whole year. Maybe that's just where we're at in life. But, chill in the air a little bit. Took the dogs out this morning. It kind of hit me and it was pretty cold. And it's like, all right, hunker down a little bit for the next couple months. And we'll get through it. It's not that cold yet, but it's still that part. But good day to record here. Happy to get the camera loaded up, the mic hot, and talk a little hockey.
And it is episode 27 for those of you who have been with us from the get-go. And for those of you who are just joining us, welcome. We would love to have you on the Hard Hat Hockey train. This morning, I'm rocking my Gabe Landeskog Avs t-shirt. It's been through a lot. Probably could use a new one, but it's one of my go-tos. And I noticed Grant is paying homage to Slapshot with his Chiefs jersey.
One of my favorite movies of all time. This was a sharp sweater to pick up. My girlfriend Ash and I went as the Hanson brothers for Halloween a few years ago, which was a good bit. So we picked up a couple of these, and I'll rock this to an occasional Jackets game, and it usually gets a good reaction. So that's a fun part of doing the video aspect is, you got to kind of dress up for it.
Yeah, all of a sudden the visual is a whole new ball game. I was pleasantly surprised to come home after a men's league hockey game Friday night and see Haley had picked up the Sammy Adams winter variety pack, the 24 pack. A lot of really fun options in there, limited edition stuff that only comes out for the holiday season. One of my favorites called Old Fezziwig. Highly recommend. Great, strong beer that will knock your socks off, quite literally. Your stockings, rather.
Oh, there you go, Trent.
Very good. Very good. So if that's in your local Walmart, check it out.
I like those variety packs. Those are fun. Sam Adams has a large presence here in Ohio. They don't really, I don't know if they want you to know that because they kind of have the whole Boston thing, but big brewery down in Cincinnati. So here in Ohio, we do actually get a pretty good amount of Sam Adams stuff here.
Grant, before we dive into this week's episode, I have men's league hockey news to share in the Roseville Skate Town adult men's league silver division. I played in one of the more embarrassing games I've ever been a part of. And my wife was present, which made it all the more embarrassing. We lost 6-2, but that's not the embarrassing part. I think I recall 2 shifts where I played 5-on-5 hockey, where it was even strength. The rest of the game, we were killing a penalty because
a lot of time in the box.
We were those jackasses. We had dudes who just could not behave, taking penalties left and right. Like I said, 2 shifts, even strength. And it's not like short games. It's 15-minute periods, not running clock. So the games take a little bit. And that's
something. And I know for our listeners, I know Trent personally. I can imagine you probably weren't one of the guys in the box, right?
No, I don't take.
Yeah, penalties. So you were getting. Yeah. I imagine you were getting a little frustrated. Maybe some yelling down to the bench.
Real frustrated. That once the third period started, it came to, it was clear understanding if we're going to score, it's going to have to be shorthanded because.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, I can only imagine.
That's all we got
there. Just 4v5. What are we doing?
I was pissed. I mean, the amount of times that just got dumped the puck out of our zone, couldn't even do anything because you're outnumbered out there. So,
and I want to be clear. Trent's not really like a Boy Scout, but he's definitely like he's not the rabble rouser. Trent's not letting anyone bait him into taking a penalty either. So like seeing other people screw up, I can only imagine was excruciating for him. Wow, that's your poor wife, dude.
That's a hell of a compliment, though. I do.
Were you able to
gassing me up this morning?
Were you able to put? Well, that's just such a niche story of like who you are, kind of where you're living and everything. That just cracks me up. Just seeing, just knowing that like it's 15-minute periods. You're
long games, right?
Yeah. And just other dudes and there's a side conversation of guys that are in the box. Be like, I'm gonna slash him next time he goes to the boards, dude. Like this is bullshit. And then like, arm comes up, referee's like, get in there. What are you doing?
The amount of times, like I remember being on the ice a couple of times. Like I never like will yell at anyone specifically, right? Because I'm not gonna call out a teammate, but like 2 hands in the air, like, oh come on, it's ridiculous. Just can't stop taking penalties.
Were you able to kind of put it behind you after you got out of the locker room, or was the drive home from the rink with your wife like, what was that?
No, I immediately went and got a Moosehead lager from the concession stand. All was fine.
That's cool. They sell beer. I didn't know.
Canadian beer.
Nice.
Great. Yeah. There's a weird I think I've told you this before. There's a weird French Canadian presence. I don't know if like way back when French Canadians migrated over to the West Coast,
probably
going for the gold rush, maybe.
Man. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe French Canadian lineage there, however.
If you know any of that, if you're a listener, let us know. We're always down to
please,
some U.S. history like
lessons. That. Yeah. Grant, most impressive scores of the week. Early on, the New Jersey Devils went to Edmonton. They won 3-0 on the road. As you know, the Columbus Blue Jackets dropped one in San Jose, 1-2, but by all respects, probably should have had a better outcome, losing to a goalie who saved 50 shots. Vitek Vanasek was in net. What a performance. I watched that one personally. They probably should have scored more than they only yielded 27 shots as well. All in all, Columbus played great. Goalie stood on his head.
Yeah, that was a tough one. First game of a road swing, you want to get off to a good start, and they did not, and it hasn't been a good road trip. And I think it kind of goes back to that first night that you just kind of get stonewalled and you can't get it figured out, and you're away from home, and that's just kind of been the story of the trip right now. So I'm excited for them to come home, maybe regroup a little bit.
They'll reset when they get back home. Utah went on the road to St. Louis. They won 4-2. They limited St. Louis to 15 shots on net. I fear that that's only going to be a trend moving forward with some of the injuries. Philip Broberg to the St. Louis Blues blue line. Nashville Predators dropped one in Florida 6-2. The Panthers limited the Preds to 18 shots on goal. The Preds, previous 3 games at that point in the week, they scored 4 goals total. So kind of goes to speak volumes to where the offense has been. And I've got some speculation about potential moves for them later on that directly correspond to the Jackets, actually.
This was a little bit of a knockout blow, felt like. It's Florida. You run into a heavyweight that knocks down your keister there.
It was certainly a wake-up call to seem like make the move that they ultimately made. Hey, Kitty. Look, if you're not with if you're on audio only, if you're on video, we got Grant's kitty saying, "Hey."
Her name's Effie. She likes to help me out for the show. Yeah.
Where's Boone?
Boone's hanging out with his mom downstairs.
Okay.
They're having a nice morning.
Okay, sounds good. The Pittsburgh Penguins won 4-2 at Washington Capitals. They rekindled a rivalry that tale as old as time. Very fun game. Ovechkin is hot on the trail. The Golden Knights.
He looks reinvented.
No kidding. Got mention it here in 1 second because there's the Caps had another impressive score. The Golden Knights dropped one on the road in Seattle. The Kraken bounced back from some tough times. They won 4-3 in overtime. The Kraken did over Vegas.
That was
and
a
then
fun
Saturday.
Game. I stayed up. Sorry, I don't interject in here. I don't know what we just want to let you riff on this, or is it cool if I throw?
Yeah. Send it.
We'll cut that at that. That was a fun one Friday night in OT with the Kraken versus Knights. I stayed up late for that one. Really enjoyed that one. If the Kraken could get going, man, that'll make that division like so much more like interesting.
Formidable. Yeah, and we're going to get to it, but the Pacific still, you just waiting on that team to assert themselves. The Knights are the clear-cut favorite right now, but after that, there's just nobody else. The Kings' underlying numbers have actually been significantly improved. So
the Kings might just have banked enough points that they're just going to be up there.
Right. Okay, so Saturday's scoreline, I called Statement Saturday because there were quite the slew of impressive performances. So out of the gate, the Canes, who are one of the best teams in hockey right now, went to Colorado. It looked bleak early. Grant down 2-0, didn't have a whole lot going. And then in the second period, the Avs scored 5 goals in 10 minutes and went on to score or win the game 6-4. So great win at home over a great team in Carolina. The Stars went to Winnipeg, and the Jets won 4-1 over one of the better Stars teams in the league. Very impressive statement. The Senators took down the Bruins 3-2.
Your Sens, dude.
I'm telling you, this team they've got stars in their eyes. I'm telling you, they're hot on the trail.
They limited Boston to 16 shots on goal.
16 shots, and Linus Ullmark. The stat he went an hour and 8 minutes between shots. So I guess he saw a shot in second period. He didn't see another shot until the one shot Boston had in overtime.
Jesus,
it's bad. Got some work to do in
it's
Boston.
Good team play.
Now. Yeah, for real. The New York Rangers won 4-0 at the Detroit Red Wings. Impressive enough to shut out a team and on a weekend. The Little Caesars Arena was
the Pizza
probably
Palace.
Hopping. Yeah, the Pizza Palace on a Saturday. So to go into that loyal crowd and blank them, that's impressive. The Washington Capitals went to St. Louis. I'm sensing a theme here with the Blues home games. They hung 8. They won 8-1. Ovechkin scored twice in that game. He now needs 33 to reach 894 goals, which is the goal record set by Wayne Gretzky years ago. He currently has 10 goals in 14 games thus far this season. I used to be a doubter on if it was going to happen this year. It still might be because this pace is kind of absurd right now.
It's hard to keep this up, but like if he gets 20 more goals, if he gets 20 more goals this year, and there's still like a month left. I mean, 10 goals in a month would be insane, but then you're watching every minute of it. And then it sets it up for like next year, just right off the bat, OV watch.
The Washington Capitals are fun right now because I've realized they are playing to win, but they're also probably the only other team that is playing for a completely secondary reason. And if you watch them play, they are constantly looking to dish the puck to Ovechkin's way, which is kind of hilarious. But
not a bad strategy.
Yeah. It is funny because they are hot on the trail for this record, and you can clearly see it in their gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, again, I feel like there's been a lot of years where that was the strategy in DC, regardless of OV's like record one. I mean, there was plenty of years where it's like, hey man, it's gonna be him just putting goals in on the power play. It is fun. It is fun to see. He's having a great time out there.
The Nashville Predators bounced back in a big way at home. They blanked Utah 4-0. Good for them. The Edmonton Oilers went on the road. They beat your guys. They beat the Canucks 7-3.
Yeah, it was a tough one.
Good road win. Good to see.
Saturday was a tough night for me, man. Jackets got just destroyed, and then my beautiful boys up in the Pacific Northwest did not have a great night. And Boise State won, but they let me down as well.
Wait, they didn't cover the spread.
They didn't cover the spread.
I've been watching Boise this season. Yeah. I love watching Boise State. I do have good news for you though, Grant. Spoiler: it's in regards to the stock market. and
Okay.
we'll get to that here shortly. Not until we hit Hockey Team Kaboom, though. As I said, this is the segment where I put Grant on the spot with a category, and Grant has to basically determine which selection is going to go to which team. So this week's category is types of soup. We have tomato soup, we have chicken noodle, we have beer cheese soup. Couple traditional, one not so traditional. One has some traditions to Worcester's College of Worcester's cafeteria. They always have beer cheese soup on the ready for some reason, and it was great and great for you. Okay.
Yeah. Kind of forgot about that.
Tomato soup, Grant, out of the gate. Tomato soup is a classic, served with toasted croutons or alongside a grilled cheese sandwich. It is a very comforting dish that can bring us back to our childhood. With its sweet yet tart flavor, it highlights the best of what fresh, ripe tomatoes have to offer.
Okay. I love this. I love tomato soup. It's a classic. I think it's something just people kind of see as the ideal fall comfort soup. But it's got its limits. It's one ingredient. It's relying a lot on those croutons. It's relying a lot on that grilled cheese. It's relying a lot on someone making it that's going to be kind of creative. Someone that's maybe going to roast the tomatoes. Someone's going to add a little basil or something into the process. You got to kind of really work with it because at the end of the day, only one ingredient. And that one ingredient is incredibly important. It might be the best ever, but it's only going to get you so far. Tomato soup is the Edmonton Oilers. It's one ingredient. It's great. You love it. You get excited for it every year, but you hit a ceiling. I don't want to just crush a bunch of tomato soup. I want to see it. I want to savor it. And I want to move on with a different course because at the end of the day, it's really only get you so far. It's not saying I don't love it. Not saying it's not a primetime player, but it has a threshold that seemingly, a lot of people can't get it over.
A painfully accurate description from our Hockey Team Kaboom expert. Okay, next up, chicken noodle. A dish made with chicken broth, chicken, noodles, and often vegetables. It is a classic comfort food that's often served when someone has a cold or maybe feeling under the weather. And it is soup season and flu season.
Yeah, so this is kind of almost the exact opposite of what I described with tomatoes. It's everything. It's carrots, it's noodles, it's chicken, it's hard good
Celery
chicken stock, celery. Yeah, it's a lot of things, and it is everything coming together and working. And this is the Florida Panthers. This is every ingredient working masterfully. And I did, I'm a little sneak behind the curtain here. Trent did not give me a heads up on these things when we do this. This is kind of a pop quiz. So I did not intend to do a Stanley Cup matchup with these items. But that's just how it flows. So, it's a good chef. It's Bill Zito in the kitchen, getting a little bit of this, a little bit of that. The spices work. The stock is of good quality. A really good chicken noodle soup will get you where you need to go. At the same time, if you miss on some of those ingredients, it can be kind of a disaster. So it's got to come together in the right way, and you need a patient coach and a guy, working the stove to make it work. But I love chicken noodle soup, dude.
Well said. Grant, I was worried that we haven't done this in a couple of weeks. Maybe the blade was going to be a little dull. That's not the case. Clearly, you're too good at this. So I like it when we do it with a guest, though. Next time Johnny, our Chicago Blackhawks expert analyst, is on, we'll throw another one his way.
I feel like a couple times we've done this with a guest, and they're like, what is
happening?
What is he having a stroke? Yeah.
Okay, our oddball of the group here, beer cheese soup. Usually made, it's the healthy one, right? Usually made from processed cheese, just a big block of processed cheese, or a blend of cheddar, other cheeses, along with spices such as cayenne pepper, mustard powder, and garlic, potentially. Flattened beer imparts flavor and helps provide a smooth texture, giving the mixture its name. So beer and cheese mixed together in a bowl.
Somehow this works, but I can't recommend it. So this to me kind of screams the Carolina Hurricanes. It works. You're going to get a ton of opportunities, I can't really recommend this. I don't think everyone should be making beer cheese soup. I don't think everyone in the NHL should play the way the Canes do. I think only the Canes should do that. I think only certain people are capable of putting 50 shots on goal and playing in one side of the ice. Because if you try to do this all the time, you are going to need to go to see a doctor because it's not going to work well for you. Trust a restaurant to do this. Trust a tavern to do this. If a cozy place is doing this, by all means. I can't recommend someone eating this consistently, but it has its role. The people that love it probably love it. People that love the Canes love it, but it's not. It's not the. No one's like painting a very nice fall picture of a beer cheese soup, but people do that for tomato soup and chicken noodle soup. But I guess that's what I'm saying here.
I feel like I've seen Thomas Kincaid actually do that. Yeah, interesting point. Yeah, I was gonna add Chowder on here, but that seemed way too obvious for the Boston Bruins. And you make a great point about the Canes. Oh, I saw them play the other night. Only the Canes can play the way the Canes do. They'd love to just have the puck on their stick for the majority of the game. Even if they're not doing a lot with it, they're just going to possess it, and they're just going to out-possess you and just keep the puck. And you're going to watch them just skate around with the puck on their stick. And they're not going to move it a whole lot, and that's okay. But somehow,
the soup's not going to move a lot, too. It's very
It's not. It's not. Okay. Great hockey team, Kaboom. Upcoming, we'll just go ahead and spoil upcoming category is going to be Thanksgiving favorites. So we'll have a lot of fun with that. Obviously, turkey. I know we typically do 3 there, Grant. We might have to throw in a 4th. We'll see. It's Thanksgiving.
We can load that up. Yeah, especially if we have a guest to kind of riff with. Yeah, that'd be fun.
All right, let's move on to our stock market breakdown. Snapshots starting with the Atlantic Division. Grant, you just let me know. I got a lot of stats here if you want to interject at any point. So the Panthers still sitting first. They've won 7 straight. They are 6-2 on the road. They lead the Atlantic in offense with 58 goals for. The Leafs are in second. They've won 3 straight. They are defending Toronto very well at home. Some struggles on the road, however. The Boston Bruins are in third with a minus 12 goal differential, and they are 4-5-1 in their last 10 games. Some concerning underlying numbers there. We talked about the concern with that home game against the Senators. I worry about this team right now. I'm not going to lie. They are 2 points. Yeah, go ahead.
I do too. I definitely do too, and I don't think the Lightning are going away. But it's still the Bruins. Like, I'm not going to bet against them too hard. It's still fairly early, but like if they're not worried, I'd be concerned. I do think they are kind of starting to kind of get the feeling that, hey, they need to kind of find an edge here. They need to start getting some bigger wins. But I mean, they're still third. I mean, it's not. There's teams that are starting worse. I mean, if you're the Avs, would you switch places with the Bruins? Like, all their results become your results?
No, because I don't want to play in the Atlantic.
Okay, that's a fair point. Let me workshop that analogy a little bit. Yeah, that'd be awful for travel.
They're third, but they've played 2 more games than the next 3 teams. Yeah. And the Sabres and the Senators.
Yeah, but the Sabres aren't gonna.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, dude. They're 2 points ahead of the next 3 teams: Tampa, Buffalo, Ottawa, and they've played 2 more games. So this could very quickly turn from 3rd to 6.
Yeah, no, you're right. Maybe I'm kind of jaded just because the Bruins are the Bruins. But yeah, the results aren't super reassuring in Boston right now.
We talked about if they had buyer's remorse last weekend, and I still don't think they have buyer's remorse. But I am starting to wonder if Elias Lindholm isn't miscast a little bit. I think you're putting a lot of pressure on head coach Jim Montgomery to make a diamond out of the wrong ingredients. And if you look at his stats of the last couple seasons with Vancouver, it's only declined, and he had his best performances alongside Vancouver's best players with Elias Pettersson or JT Miller. When he wasn't with those players, he doesn't generate offense by himself. He's not a Connor McDavid where if you could throw him with anybody, he's still going to produce points. He's not
that's
that.
a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it. He's dependent on other people to create the chances.
Correct.
Which is fine if those chances are being created.
He's a good player. As a 1C, that's a lot to ask for a city of Boston that needs a hero. And you're replacing the likes of Patrice Bergeron. That's tough. And that's why I think that they're going to be active here sooner rather than later on a market that potentially has some opportunities. So, yeah, I think the Bruins make the playoffs. I think they're going to be fine. I do think that with Lindholm and the weight that's on his shoulders right now, and the weight that's on Montgomery's shoulders to produce, I think the GM and the whole management and scouting put a lot of pressure on head coach Jim Montgomery with this move this offseason.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also the part of like Boston's not a team we associate with squeaking into the playoffs.
Right.
So, like, yeah, they'll probably make it, but like, is that enough in Boston for what expectations are? Probably not.
No.
So,
yeah. So following the Boston Bruins, you've got Lightning, Sabres, and Senators. They are all 4th, 5th, and 6th, respectively. All have a +4 goal differential. Mind you, Boston has a -12, yet sits in 3rd, having played a couple more games. The Buffalo Sabres have won 3 straight. The Wings are in 7th place. Yeah, for real. Sean Hackle, our boy. Detroit Red Wings are in 7th with 13 points. They have a -9 goal differential. Which would seem bad, but -9, it's still better than Boston's -12 currently. So we'll see how that turns out. I hope Boston
that stat will start leveling out a little bit across the board. I think.
I hope Boston is eyeing some potential targets and at least considering some movement. Montreal Canadiens are in 8th. They've lost 2 in a row. They are 2-6-2 in their last 10. And they have a -23 goal differential. And
they fell off a bit.
The trade rumors in Montreal are abundant, and I certainly look for that team to be a part of headlines probably before Christmas. Anything else with the Atlantic?
No, I think this division is what we kind of think it is. Unless like a Buffalo or an Ottawa, string together some games and make it interesting. Yeah, it's the action is at the top of the ticket there.
Yep. Okay, let's go to the Metro. The New Jersey Devils currently sit in 1st. However, they have played 5 more games than the Canes and the Rangers. They are 6-3 on the road, but lost to the San Jose Sharks at home yesterday, 1-0 off of a really weird goal, own goal. Timo Meier, which was kind of ironic, seeing as the Sharks were in town. His former team was there for a long time before that big trade, year and a half ago. The Carolina Hurricanes are 8-2 in their last 10, and they sit in 2nd place, and they look like a machine. The Washington Capitals, as discussed, they continue to defend home ice well. They've only played 5 of their 14 games on the road, however, so we'll see how they deal with their first their true road trip, which I imagine has got to be coming soon. They sit in 3rd. They are in hot pursuit of a playoff spot and the Gretzky goal record. The New York Rangers are in 4th with 19 points. So that makes the top 4 teams in the Metro separated by 3 points total. The New York Rangers have let up 30 goals, which is the best defensive effort in the Metropolitan Division. The New York Islanders are 4-5-1 in their last 10. They've won 2 of their last 7 games at home and have scored 39 goals. Offensively, that's the worst in the Metro. The Pittsburgh Penguins are in 6th with 14 points and have played 3 more games than Columbus, who sits in 7th, so that's promising. Columbus, 12 points. They have lost 2 straight on this West Coast road trip. and they are 1-4-2 on the road, as we know that one win coming in Denver. Any thoughts here?
It's not a great stretch. Again, I've always kind of had to temper my expectations with this team. Kind of said early on, like, this isn't a playoff team, but we need to see some improvement from the young guys. That's been the MO all year. Little disappointed with the West Coast swing, though, just because we were playing teams that were beatable. That's kind of the thing. Like, the West Coast swing's never easy, and you do kind of look at things through that lens of this is a lot of travel. But San Jose's not good, Anaheim's not good, and we lost those two teams. So those are the teams. If you are going to say, hey, we're going to be an improved version of ourselves, you got to beat those teams, even if it's on the road. And it just didn't happen, and that's tough. So now, if you are going to say, hey, we're going to improve, now you have to start beating. You got to start beating like the Rangers and the Hurricanes when you see those guys next time. So a little disappointing. I mean, disappointing all around. They're back home this week. They got the Pens on Friday. I'm eyeing that game. Might go to that one in person, Trent. Don't know. So
Certainly.
that could get the vibes kind of turned around, but it kind of feels like the team's kind of regressing to expectations a little bit, which is, not a bottom 5 team, but also probably not a wild card team either.
Okay. Well, plenty of time. We'll see how it goes.
The injuries are catching up to us. The injuries are catching up.
Well, we need Kent Johnson back. I love watching him skin.
Maybe next month. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's hard. People take for granted, fans out there, give the players a little bit of grace. I know anytime I'm traveling from the West Coast to the Eastern time zone or vice versa, it takes a couple days to get acclimated. And these guys show up with less than 24 hours of warm-up time, sleeping in the hotel. Bodies haven't adjusted. Circadian rhythm is all out of whack, and they're just expected to perform at an NHL level. That's hard.
If you got an injury, airplane, like the high altitude is like one of the worst things for it. You're going to get like inflamed. I mean, you feel it. You feel every bit of it. But everyone goes through that. Everyone deals with it. And good teams, find a way to make it happen. So, it's, I always go back to it. I grew up, the Jags were in the Western Conference. So we would do this multiple times a year. It's nice being in the Eastern Conference where it's like, just get this out of the way and get movement.
Yeah, to your point, Grant, those aircraft, what people don't realize that when you're traveling by any airliner, the air you're breathing in the fuselage is pure oxygen, which is not what you're used to when you're on the ground, when you're on Earth's surface. So you are getting very dehydrated, and it's not good for sickness of any kind, whether you have symptoms or not, or have a sickness brewing. That pure oxygen basically depletes your body of fluids, and kind of zaps the ability of your immune system there, at least for a brief period of time. So to Grant's point, it's not ideal conditions. Okay. Finally, with the Metro, the Philadelphia Flyers sit in 8th place with a -15 goal differential. And in controversial news already, John Tortorella benched rookie sensation Matvei Michkov, said he wasn't playing well defensively. Offensively, has put up good numbers for a rookie, just not responsible enough for Tort's liking. On a last place team, I don't really understand this. Just keep them out there.
We've seen this story before. I'm a big Torts guy, but he is what he is, and you gotta do the work to get his minutes. And I don't know. I haven't watched the Flyers extensively, so I don't really know exactly what's going on. But Torts is Torts, man. I don't know.
If I'm Daniel Briere, I'm probably pulling Torts into the office this week, saying, "Hey, this is our, big time draft pick. Just got over here.
He's the guy.
He is the guy. He just got over here from Europe. We're probably not making the playoffs this year. Let's just get him some reps and get him, let him get his feet under him, learn a little bit at the ripe age of 18.
What if they're bad habits, Trent? We can't be enforcing bad habits if you don't.
Correct.
If you just let them go.
That's well said. I guess for the future of our franchise and the face of it, let's iron out those bad habits with repetition in game. Is how I would go about it.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
he's
don't
going to
know.
learn playing Xbox on the bench. So, but hey, that's just me. I'm not an NHL GM. Let's go out west, Central Division. The Winnipeg Jets are 14-1. They have 11 skaters with 10 plus points. That is deep. 67
It's
goals.
shocking. It's shocking how good they are.
I gotta tell you, I did not see this coming. I think I even predicted that they weren't going to make the playoffs this year. And
I was
think
cold on. I was very cold on them.
Yeah. Oh, after the playoff series with the Avs, I didn't have a lot of reason to think that this roster was going to put it together, especially with the departures they had on the blue line. And wow, I was wrong. 67
And
goals for. That's number one offense in the NHL. They are a plus 36 goal differential. That's also number one in the NHL. They've won 6 straight. Minnesota Wild are in second. They're 7-3 in their last 10.
There's another team that shocks me.
Crazy what these two teams are putting together right now. Minnesota.
That's the beauty of the game. That really is kind of the beauty of it.
Right.
It's frustrating when you're an Avs fan and that's like the situation, but like the fact that these teams can just find a way to win and get in a lane and just keep it going. It's beautiful. It's reassuring if you're a fan of a bad team. You're like, oh, that could be us one day.
I mean, we talked about in the offseason, man. There's always one team, at least one every single year, where you have to basically admit that we were wrong. And these two are certainly weren't on my bingo card. The Wild did lose to Chicago in overtime yesterday. Good win. My boy Kurashov had that overtime winner. Good for them. The Dallas Stars are 7 points behind the Wild, but they sit in third, so kind of a larger separation in the Central Division than we see in the East. They are 6-1 at home, that being the Dallas Stars. Utah has dipped. They are in fourth place, but have lost. They're 3-5-2 in their last 10. They are a minus 10 goal differential. The Avs sit in fifth. They're 6-4 in their last 10. Starting to get going a little bit. Got Lehkonen back. Nichushkin comes back in 2 days. So that's two huge names.
Nichushkin countdown.
And Lehkonen looks like he hasn't missed a beat. He's played in 2 games and looks awesome, which is great to see.
That's good to get back. Utah kind of righted the ship there. I was thought they were kind of falling off, and they're, their last 10's not dreadful. 3-5-2, couple points there.
It's not dreadful. It's not great. I mean, there's a lot of weight there on overtime losses.
I thought the bottom was kind of going to fall off with them once it started to dip. But I still think they're just going to be a hard team to beat at home.
I still think something that's flawed with NHL standings is overtime losses. Fans, if you're not tracking, you still get 1 point for an overtime loss. So it's almost like making a pig look pretty with points.
Yeah, but like without ties, you gotta have something there.
Correct. Yeah. I almost wonder if we don't go to like a 4-point system where like a win gets you a certain amount of points, a win in overtime gets you a certain amount of points. A loss,
and then an overtime loss gets you. Okay, here, let's do it. Okay, 3 points for a win.
Okay.
2 points for an overtime or shootout win. 1 point for an overtime loss.
I like
or a shootout loss.
I think you get some more separation throughout the standings. I think the standings by the end of the year can still be too close. And we saw this last year with the Washington Capitals.
The whole Metro.
This year. The whole Metro
nobody
was leaning heavily on overtime losses. And it just doesn't seem right to me. So I'd like to see.
Yeah, I think 3 points for a regulation win also is such a big jump that teams will like. I don't think anyone plays for OT. Like teams used to kind of play for ties. But I think 3 for a win is good. I just got an update from The Athletic. A new article says no more moral victories for the Blue Jackets. So that's where we're at right now in Columbus.
Oh, can't wait to read that one.
Yeah.
All right, the St. Louis Blues, they sit in 6th place with 14 points. So third, fourth, fifth, and sixth place in the Central, 2-point separation. So
that's pretty tight.
Tight race
That's
there.
one game.
The Dallas Stars have played 2 less games. However, they sit in third, so potential to make up or have a 4-point separation if Dallas wins their next 2 games. Nashville sits in seventh with 11 points, 37 goals for. That is the least goals for in the Central Division. And the Chicago Blackhawks are in eighth. They're 3-7 in their last 10. Tyler Bertuzzi, notably slow start out of the gate. However, Twitter stats this morning, just talking about underlying numbers, Corsi 4 suggests that Bedard is certainly getting a lot more help this season than he did last season with the likes of Teravainen, Kurashev, Nick Foligno.
I saw a line that Connor is like one of the best in one-on-one goal creation. He's the guy that could make a scoring opportunity just himself. Is what we're seeing with his metrics right now. Which, if you're a Hawks fan, that's at least fun to watch. Because if the puck's on his tape, anything can happen. Which we kind of knew that. I mean, that was his profile coming out. That's what made him so exciting. But it is cool to see it materialize.
And we've got a guest that we'd like to introduce.
Here we go. Big guest pod. Oh,
Big guest pod. All the furry friends. And for those of you who are just on audio, Ella the Labrador has made her presence known. She is alive and well. She woke up from a nap. It's one of probably 7 today.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Big nap hours right now.
Big nappers. Yep. All right, let's go to the Pacific Division. The LA Kings are 6-3-1 in their last 10. They sit in first place currently with 21 points, but they have played 2 more games than the Vegas Golden Knights, who sit in second. Vegas looks very good. The Vegas Golden Knights are still a perfect 8-0 at home. Vancouver Canucks are in third with 17 points and a -1 differential. They are 7-2-1 in their last 10. Calgary has cooled off a little bit to expectations there in fourth. They are 3-5-2 in their last 10.
Lost 2 straight in OT, which that's the reverse side of what we just talked about. If you don't get the job done, right? No, you're leaving points on the board. I mean, that's the difference between fourth and third right now in the Pacific.
Oh. The Edmonton Oilers are in fifth. They are struggling to defend home ice, but McDavid is back, so that's good. The Seattle Kraken has fallen.
That is good that wasn't a long term.
Right, I thought it was going to be way longer.
Yeah.
Seattle Kraken have fallen to sixth place. They are 3-6-1 in their last 10. Anaheim Ducks, I put here they have yet to start the season offensively with a league worst 27 goals. This has now this before last night, however. So
yeah, I got the job done last night.
That's 31 goals for now. Still a pretty anemic offensive effort for a Ducks team that I predicted to make the playoffs. Right now, it doesn't look great. But if I put a bet,
keep going. Talk about the Sharks because what I'm about to say kind of applies to them too.
Well, if I put money on them right now and they still made the playoffs, that'd probably be the biggest payout because offensively they can't get any worse. The San Jose Sharks sit in 8th place. They are a -20 goal differential. California hockey woes continue is what I put here. I remember a time I had to go back when Ryan Getzlaf and Corey Perry were in Anaheim and the Ducks made the playoffs in the 2017 season, which seems like a century ago at this point.
I remember it fondly.
I was just digging into stats about the Ducks last night, and I found on Twitter a lot of frustration regarding this rebuild and how long it has taken. Because you've seen other teams that have essentially lapped the Ducks, that have started a rebuild. They started a rebuild later than the Ducks did and were able to produce on their rebuild. The Ducks still, it's as if they're in rebuild mode and they're acting like they just started. We're 8 years into this. It's getting a little frustrating.
Yeah, I remember that playoffs fondly. I had just graduated Worcester, and I was a young man. Trent, now I'm 30, and within that time, Ducks have and like this is some of these teams that have kind of like lapped it. Look at who would you put into that category? I mean, are like the Wild maybe? They were
Yeah,
in kind of a
baby.
weird position.
In the Wild with that, the $14 million cap penalty that the Wild have had for years.
Yeah, I guess they just kind of fought through the handcuffs a little bit.
Right.
Is a way of putting that. I would put the abs in there because it took the abs a little bit, like with Kale, and Landeskog was always good, but kind of cemented himself.
That season, they started. Yeah. That's when the Avs really dug into their rebuild effort, and to your point, they've produced on the rebuild since then. Obviously,
Florida definitely. Obviously,
Florida, yes.
Yeah, my goodness,
they have definitely. Yeah. During that 17-18 season, I'd have to go back, but the Panthers weren't very good during the early 2020s, and they came storming. Who else here? A couple teams. Essentially, we're looking at some teams, maybe even the Carolina Hurricanes.
Canes are definitely in there. But you're right, and it's not even just like, oh, they're stuck in rebuild. It's like they've had draft picks, they've had guys that are like seen as assets, and it's still here. But I think like bigger picture. And it's still early in the season. And I think what we're going to see here, the next month is the time to make the move. Because if you can flip the switch now and turn things around, headed into soup season, as we're going to call it, maybe your perception for the rest of the winter is going to be changed. But a lot of these young teams that we're like, hey, is there something here? Whether it was the Ducks, maybe even the Sharks or the Red Wings, maybe you sprinkle the Jackets or the Canadians in there if you're feeling frisky. A lot of these teams, like, we're just not seeing it. Like, the results aren't there. And I think that as a fan, that's like a little frustrating because I think if you go back to the primers, like Trent and I were looking at these teams with like young talent and be like, I'm kind of interested to see what happens. Well, now we're seeing what happens, and it's kind of disappointing.
It goes to show because, to your point, the Ducks have had high value first round draft picks for years. And it goes to show you that is great on paper. Theoretically, that should pay off. But it was like the Edmonton Oilers through the 2010s. Just because you're drafting a top 10 round draft pick every single year, it doesn't mean it's going to pay off.
It doesn't entitle you to returns.
But there's no guarantee it's going to work. So theoretically on paper, sure, it should work. The Ducks are in that position.
A team that completely bottomed out, rebuilt it, turned it around, is good again. And that in the Ducks time frame is the Rangers, actually, because the Rangers were like good, and then they got like really bad, and now they're like good again. Yeah, that's a team that.
They might win the Stanley Cup this year.
I was thinking about it wrong. I needed to think about teams that were good in 2016 and 2017. And are still good, but with the different players. And that's kind of the Rangers.
Yeah. So goes to show you scouting development of players is hard to do. And, Edmonton struggled with it for years. You could argue that they have turned it around. They fixed it, I guess.
You make it all the way to the cup. You build some equity. You build a little bit of like, well, hey, we know you guys can do it. But the difference is they've got deep in the playoffs, whereas like a team like the Leafs, like they're also have a lot of high end talent. They also have all the studs, but they don't get past the second round. So you just have a perception on them. Yeah. So
why don't we jump straight to it then for the big news?
Yeah,
if you want it. Okay, Dante Fabro was waived by the Nashville Predators. He was picked up by the Columbus Blue Jackets shortly after. Didn't see it coming. Makes sense, though, after the fact. The Jackets have the space. Why not?
The Jackets a lot of teams put in claims for him, too. The Jackets
I didn't realize that.
I heard. That's what I read. That's what I heard. I don't know my source again. I heard that he was a commodity, and it came down to the Jackets just being ahead of people on the waiver wire. We got a lot of defensemen on the roster. This tells me that there's probably another move coming. Probably Zurich being moved down to the AHL, which that's not a good thing. Go back to what was the objectives of the year? Young guys improving. He's at the top of the list. He's had a rough couple of years. Last year was really bad, but the whole organization was bad last year. So we were kind of hoping new guys stepping in was going to help him out. He's been scratched a lot when he has played. He hasn't exactly taken over games, but he's a young, big-bodied defenseman. Those guys usually take a little longer to develop. So I'm not, hitting the panic button on him. But if this move makes the team better, but he has to go down to the AHL, that's a very tough. That's almost a conundrum because like what's more valuable, Jarek's long-term ceiling or results right now? I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't work for the team. But it's interesting because this is a cool move. It got put a pep in my step, as I said to Trent. Or the other one is we trade Provorov because his stock is super high and we could probably get a lot for him. That would be cool. That would be like some, churn some assets. Because he's playing way better than I thought he would this year because he did not look good last year. But chalk that up as the whole team not playing very well. So
what's that deal at $5.5 million for Provorov?
Let me put it up. Yeah,
while you're looking, you talk about getting answers. I think if you want answers, take Dean out on that steak dinner. At a minimum, send him the Omaha Steaks Christmas package as a Christmas gift this year.
Love that.
That's always a fan favorite. We should look for them to be a sponsor. So who are you getting in Dante Fabro, Grant? The Jackets are getting a 26-year-old last year of his $2.5 million deal. So a little bit of prove it time here for Dante Fabro's camp. He was just waived. Obviously, his value is seemingly lower than it was at the start of the season. That's a guy who I painted in the Preds offseason is going to be a big piece of their top four. He was in and out of the lineup, 0 points in 6 games. However, here's what I noticed. The man has a positive Corsi 4, which I love. And essentially, again, positive Corsi 4s mean traditionally when he's on the ice, your team has the puck. Here's something else I noticed. He is getting the puck effectively out of his zone, breaking the puck out 80%.
That's huge.
80% of the time. That is massive.
And we struggle with that. We struggle with that.
I don't care if you're a defenseman and you don't score a goal all season long. I don't care. That's a cherry on top. If you get the puck out of your zone, you're going to play in the NHL. A guy, just because I know him and love him, he's near and dear to my heart, who does this very well is Samuel Girard. Sam Girard in Colorado gets a lot of flack. He's a smaller guy, doesn't always produce all the time, but people fail to realize and see those underlying numbers. The dude gets the puck out of his zone every single time, and that is more important than any offense he's going to provide you. So that's why I like this move.
Provorov's on a 6-year deal. So the contract year for him, 6.75. Trent.
Ooh,
yeah.
Ooh.
But if it's the last year, you don't have to.
Okay.
You're not hemmed into it. So if someone has the space, and I will say this, his career, I know he's a controversial guy. I'm not a huge fan of him personally. But he does show up for big moments. Like he's a big time player. He's improved a lot this year. Again, I think it's because Dean Evanson's kind of simplified the game for everyone that's wearing a Blue Jackets sweater right now. And we're seeing dividends with guys like him and even Severson to a degree. But I don't think anyone's going to take Severson up. But the Jackets could move Provorov if the right deal was there. And I think you kind of have to. You gotta bring, if you can get a second or third round pick, you do that, and then you're freed up another 6. Not that the Jackets have cap issues, my God, but it'd be a smart move, savvy move if something can be found.
Agreed. I do think you're accurate in saying a move is on the horizon because you're right. They've got a loaded defensive stable right now.
We have 8 defensemen.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Jack Johnson's playing a ton.
He's playing great.
He's been good. He's not the problem. I don't think there's any in any of these games. And granted, it was the West Coast, and I maybe had some adult beverages. Nothing stood out to me as like, oh, this is the problem. It's just like, teams put goals up on us. Maybe we don't have the firepower to really get back once you're a goal or two down. But this is a good move. I think it's gonna help. It's gonna help the team.
Okay, we talked
Fabro.
about
I gotta get used to his name. Dante. Maybe let's
Dante
go by
Fabro.
Dante.
It's a good name.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
talked about what Columbus gets here. Let's talk about Nashville. They now have $7 million in cap space. This is a move that I'll say this would not be made if things were going well. This is clearly a sign of
Yeah.
maybe potentially more moves to come. They have $7 million in cap space. Now, 3 of their top 4 defensemen are over the age of 30. And on the depth chart right now, there is no one who's going to get a lot of playing time under the age of 30. Uh, so I say 3 of their top 4 because I don't know who the 4th guy is right now. When you look at their depth chart, they're going to have to pick and choose a guy that they probably don't want in the top 4, frankly, which leads me to believe there's another deal on the horizon. We'll see, though. There's some teams who we talked about, Grant, this past week that could be options for them. The Sharks would obviously be willing to make any trade at this point. The Flyers, they have a guy in Eric Johnson that they would move for a bag of pucks. A cheap $1 million deal, but that doesn't solve your problem. They want younger defensemen. Eric Johnson's 36. There's a team in Pittsburgh that I'm sure would love to make a blockbuster deal for a GM that's trying to cut his teeth and get Pittsburgh going in the right direction. You know, is a Eric Carlson on the table? You know, whether they retain cap or they don't, and $10 million goes the other way, that's something that the Preds would have to figure out. But I don't know. It's those are just options. It's tough to pin down.
Yeah.
I do think they're going to be looking on the blue line though, because they don't have a lot of answers on their depth chart right now, especially with the subtraction of Fabro. So, yeah,
yeah. I don't know. I don't know where you even start with this. Like, I know we're talking a lot of defensemen, but like maybe you try to move Nyquist because I think he's a guy that like a contender could want. Maybe I don't know. Marshall shows in his first year of a 5-year, he's probably not going anywhere. Stammer's not going anywhere. It's not great in terms of just like the makeup of this team right now. So I don't know, man. I was really excited just by like kind of the vibe and the kind of everything that led to Nashville kind of going like all chips in at the table. But if the Jackets could pick through their scraps, not a bad play.
Not a bad move at all. Well, fascinating times in Columbus and Nashville right now. We'll see how it plays out. Okay. Some news out of college hockey, Grant. The NCAA makes CHL, so the Canadian Hockey League, which includes the QM, the Quebec Major Junior League, the WHL, and the OHL. All those players are now eligible for D1 hockey in the NCAA, as long as they aren't paid more than actual or necessary expenses as part of that participation. This per ESPN Greg Wyshynski.
Which they usually aren't, but sometimes you hear rumors of some organizations maybe sliding more money. And if that comes to light that someone benefited, then they would not be eligible.
Correct.
So like if you're busted, then you can't take an escape route to the NCAA is what that's in line. That's why that language.
Yeah, and I get the language. I don't love it.
Those guys don't make a lot of money. It's like $400 a month.
That's my point. We're pinching pennies here, and you're really going to get on a player if he gets a gift.
Well,
from the team that drafted.
They have to. They have to have that. So, like, if there is a scandal, like I said, there's not an escape route to Boston College or something like that. Like that's why that's in there. I don't think that as much of that goes on as it used to. I think definitely there was a time where certain organizations were, paying to win. And I don't think that's as I don't know. It doesn't occur as much. But this is a huge development. I could have talked all episode about this. This is like really exciting for hockey development.
Mm-hmm.
in both Canada and the United States. I think if it's done well, I mean, it benefits the player. I'm usually all for things that like gives guys the most opportunity to play, most opportunity to develop. Um, the big thing here is what people were kind of seeing is guys in the O League were getting 400 a month, and that was deemed professional in the NCAA's eyes. But then NIL money starts pouring in, and in certain hockey schools, guys are making way more than that. But then that's still amateurism. So they kind of had to just look at this and say, hey, there's this huge contradiction in the world of hockey. So we kind of have to make this change. I think this is going to help a lot of guys out. And I think certain colleges and universities are going to thrive with this. I think junior hockey in Canada will be fine. I think it'll get a little younger. But I think, it's going to turn into teams in the W or the Q or any of them just like really thriving with like the 17, maybe like a 16 or 17-year-old team base as opposed to your kind of stud 19-year-olds. Maybe. I don't know. That's just kind of speculation on my point. But this is big. This is a really big news. I hope everyone can kind of get on the same page of like what this is going to look like, and ideally to benefit the player, because these college programs are like they're so appealing now too. Like in college hockey used to not be like a huge deal outside of a couple schools, but then like I think of like a Seth Jones. I think Seth and I are like the same age. And full disclosure, guys, I never had a shot to go to the degree that Seth Jones did, obviously. But Seth has talked about his development. He went juniors because you played every day. It was a professional environment. Back when he was in making this choice, college teams played like twice a week. And, maybe you have the big rivalry game or maybe you make it to the tournament, but like it wasn't as intense as it is now. And it wasn't like this kind of pipeline to the show. So he was one of those guys who's like, no, I wanted to play every day. I wanted to go up against like, I forget what year, how old he was when he made the jump, but he wanted to go up against like really good older players to develop. And that was the pathway. That's what you did. Even if you were an American, that's what you did. And that's changed. That's totally changed now. Where guys will go to a Penn State or an ASU or something like that and still have a good development.
Yeah, absolutely. Grant, that's all I got for you for news. Are you ready for the hard hats?
Yeah, let's do it.
The hard hats of the week are sponsored by Leroy's Bar, located in the heart of Worcester, Ohio. Leroy's establishment has provided cheap pitchers and a safe haven for all of the Fighting Scots of Worcester since 1969. Make your reservations today. All right, it's a first for me. I'm giving out 2.
All right.
I'm feeling in a giving mood. It's the holiday season. Just put up the tree. My first one's going to Nikita Prishapov, 7th-round pick out of Colorado, making a name for himself, played in 3 games and looked fantastic. And again, you don't see that. 7th-rounders typically do not make the team ever, let alone the year that they were drafted.
Same year. Yeah, it's a great story.
My next hard hat is more of a wish. Maybe this hard hat will get things going in the right direction. I think this is a guy, I mentioned it earlier, who has been given a tough hand. I think the management didn't do him a lot of favors this offseason and essentially threw him a deck of cards and said, catch him. And that's exactly what he's been doing. He's a great coach, personal friend of mine. And I think he figures it out. And this hard head of the week's going to Jimmy Montgomery in Boston.
Hey,
so
there we go.
Hopefully this gets him going and can help him figure out the Rubik's Cube that is that roster right now.
That's a good one. Those are great. I'm going to keep mine simple here. Congratulating him on his 1200 NHL game. It's our guy. It's Jack Johnson. Was really hoping we'd get him a win. 1,000 games is always like impressive when you see that. Add another 200 to it. Jack's a guy that changed the culture here. I'm very happy that he's back and is still kind of getting things done. It's been a lot of fun. So to got to tip the hat to a guy that honestly you can make the case, like if you were putting together like the all-time Jackets team, he might be in there. Like I don't know how. I'd have to. That might be a fun off-season exercise. But in terms of like defensemen that have been here for a long time and produced and had like really amazing moments, he was on that team that kind of started making the playoffs for the first time. He was a big part of that, and he's back here kind of helping the next generation of guys. Kind of seeing his career highlights the other night put it all in perspective for me. So got to give it to Jack Johnson.
Well, folks, wherever you're at across the country, we hope you enjoy the brisk weather. The holiday season is upon us. If you're decorated for Christmas, if you wait, that's fine too. If you watch Hallmark movies, Grant's a waiter. Okay,
wait, I'm after not. Thanksgiving. Get after Thanksgiving.
I'm not. I'm gonna get after it and let's enjoy it as long as we possibly can. If you are enjoying the football, enjoying the hockey, whatever it is, we appreciate you enjoying the show. Again, reach out to us, tell your friends, leave a comment or review, Facebook, Twitter, email hardheadhockey1@gmail.com. YouTube channel, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. All three are options. We love you guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next week. And let's go get them, Grant. Woo!